I'm now delighted to bring on our final speaker of the day, literally the Speaker of the City Council, Julie Menin. Speaker Menin is here in part because she has made housing affordability one of her biggest priorities. Thank you, Speaker Menin, for joining us.
Thank you.
She has really taken innovative steps, and we're going to hear a little bit about this, to help ensure that New York not only builds the affordable housing that is so needed today, but also expands programs to keep New Yorkers in their homes. But I also want to add at this Economic Mobility Summit that it's worth noting and celebrating that she has already left an important mark on economic opportunity in our city, thanks to her successful efforts to, among many other things, fund really major expansions to New York City Kids Rise, to the city's Fair Fare program, and to the city's FEPS rental assistance program. So again, another round of applause, please, for our City Council Speaker. So, first of all, you had a pretty busy morning, I hear.
Yes, Jonathan, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with all of you. And I'm sorry, I was scheduled to be here this morning, and I had to move the time because right now, as we speak, and starting early this morning, we had a seminal hearing on the horse carriage industry. I indicated my position yesterday that I believe it is time that we transition away from this industry. This is the first time in 40 years that the City Council is finally going to take on this issue. And of course, the solution also involves creating a pathway for the workers who've given their life to this industry. And so I've been very focused on really working on a path to guarantee jobs to those workers and keep them in the hospitality and tourism industry, but transition away from the horse-drawn carriages in the park. So we have a very intense hearing happening right now that I just stepped away from to be here, but it's an honor to be here with all of you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We know how busy and how many important things you're doing. We're here having you here in part because you've made housing probably a bigger part of your agenda than I think maybe any other speaker. Mm-hmm. And we have a former speaker as our board chair. Could you walk us through a couple of the key elements of that housing agenda and why you've made it such an important priority?
Thank you for the question, Jonathan. So I started my career in public service as a lawyer and small business owner. My business was decimated on 9/11. It was located a couple blocks from Ground Zero. I mention that because subsequent to that, I served as the 7-year chair of Community Board 1 in Lower Manhattan. And in those 7 years that I chaired Community Board 1, where we had 90 active construction projects happening in and around Lower Manhattan, I really got a firsthand look at our ULURP process and have a lot of thoughts on why I think it's broken and in sore need of reform. But it always struck me back then that the City Council is largely a reactive body on land use, meaning a ULURP is presented to us, we react and weigh in on it, but this council has not been sort of as proactive around housing as I think we could be. And so I really was determined to change that. So what we have done is we're taking an outside-of-the-box proactive look at how can we build more affordable housing in the city. And so 2 big ideas that we came out with are, first and foremost, we surveyed the 215 public library branches located in New York City to see which ones could we build affordable housing on. And so we've identified numerous sites, and we are now doing just that, where these projects will be 100% affordable in terms of the housing that is built on top of them. And it's a win-win because oftentimes for the libraries, they're in need of capital repairs. And every 4 or 5 years, we'll approve some capital money to repair the libraries, and then they need more money. And this creates a brand new state-of-the-art public library, and on top of it, 100% affordable housing. So that's the first thing that we're doing. The second thing that we announced about a month ago is, and all of us I know have walked by them. You walk down a street and between 2 buildings, there'll be a vacant piece of land that is rather narrow in shape and usually overgrown with weeds and sometimes, unfortunately, rats. And you say, like, what is that? It's a small lot, and it's not developable because the financials don't work. So we took out to survey them, and we came up with 2,850 of the small lots where we actually can develop. There are about 18,000 small lots in total in the city. We took 2,850 and said these are viable to develop on. What we need to do is we need to amend the construction code so that we take them from the 6 stories that they are zoned for now to 8 stories, and we change the fire case. There's a lot that we need to do around that, because that are sort of sensible adjustments that we can make where we can allow 8 stories to be built. And so that's exactly what we're doing. And those 2,850 lots can be developed into 35,000 units of housing. So we're really excited about these 2 ideas, and it positions the council as someone who's really working to help to address the affordable housing crisis.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, I want to say on the libraries idea, especially something, we've written at CUF a whole lot about libraries. They are another very important economic mobility institution. And I just want to give you a big thanks and applause for that project. And this is something that the council hasn't kind of traditionally done, that kind of level of kind of pushing this forward. And besides just identifying the sites, you've kind of put some money or proposed putting money behind this as well.
Exactly. So we got money in the budget vis-a-vis HPD to allocate for these library projects. So we're very excited about that. And then you also mentioned 2 other things that or really 3 things that we very much focused on in the budget. One is NYC Kids Rise, which is a program I started a decade ago when I served as commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs. We launched a project with the Gray Foundation where we seated 10,000 kids in Queens School District 30 with a college savings account. These are public school kindergartners. And the premise was that a low-income child who has a college savings account is 3 times more likely to go to college than someone who does not, 4 times more likely to graduate, and earn almost double the wages in the course of their lifetime than someone who does not go into ongoing education. So I started that program a decade ago and was a founding board chair of NYC Kids Rise. We now have done 380,000 of those college savings accounts. So we're in our 8th grade cohort. What we did in the budget is I really wanted to increase the amount we were giving, because originally we gave $100 per child and invested it in the state's $529, so it would compound over time. Now we have taken it to, thanks to what we're doing in the budget, $1,000 for every public school kindergartner in New York City. So this is the largest college savings program in the country. It is going to be completely transformative, because these young people can use the money for vocational school, for a 2-year community college, for a 4-year college. And again, the studies show that those students will earn almost double the wages in the course of their lifetime. It is, in my humble opinion, one of the single best ways we can actually tackle income inequality in our city. The other program you mentioned, of course, is Fair Fares. And I heard the comments you made with the chancellor, because we're doing this expansion for CUNY students as well, pilot program. But Fair Fares, we're doing an expansion, adding an additional 340,000 New Yorkers will now be eligible for Fair Fare, taking it to 1.3 million New Yorkers who will be able to avail themselves of this reduced subway, bus, or paratransit. So we're really excited about that. And then lastly, on City FEPS, where we did an expansion of City FEPS and then got the mayor to agree to drop the lawsuit against the council, which is something I pushed very hard for, and we reached a settlement with the administration that involved a new city council bill that takes takes City FEPS from a program of entitlement to one that is subject to appropriations, and made some changes on the program as well.
Well, congratulations on all of that. And, I think especially the Kids Rise is not just an affordability kind of step. It really, I think, is about economic mobility and economic opportunity, because we know how important college is, and saving for college, how hard that is in this city. So the $1,000 per child is really massive, and I think you got to make sure everybody understands how big that is. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to bring it back to housing, and we talked about, and you talked about, some of the kind of really big steps that you've taken and innovative moves that the council is taking around housing. I want to ask you a little bit about the kind of purpose or the framing of our conference today, which is like, we're trying to go beyond that we need to build more housing or that we need to do more to keep people in their homes, to can we leverage housing policy for economic mobility, for ownership, for asset building, for wealth creation. I'm curious, to what extent are you and your colleagues in the council thinking about this? Are there initiatives you're proposing when it comes to expanding ownership? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we allocated $5 million in the budget for a new home ownership, particularly focused on Black communities around the city of New York, because we know home ownership is so important. It also, the initiative goes to issues around deed theft, because we know deed theft is just an enormous problem that we have to tackle. And so that funding that we allocated to home ownership is going to be very important. We're also going to be introducing very soon, so stay tuned, a whole suite of legislative proposals to protect home ownership, particularly in the Black community, where this has been a historic issue of concern. So I'm very excited about these bills that we'll be introducing very shortly. Also, I think our approach on the budget, when the mayor issued his preliminary budget back in January, it did include the threat of a property tax of 9.5%. That was non-starter for me, non-negotiable. The city council is the last stop on property taxes, and I took that issue off the table on the day that was, even mentioned, because raising property taxes 9.5% would decimate home ownership, particularly in Black and brown communities across the city.
Hear, hear. Well, thank you for that. I guess, just in closing, this is again the center's third annual Economic Mobility Summit, and you've taken these steps around Kids Rise, the Fair Fares program. Are there other things that are percolating in your mind and on your staff or in the council that you think, what else can we be doing as a city, whether it's connecting housing and economic mobility or just on economic mobility? Are there proposals or ideas that you'd like to see work forward in the next year?
Yes. So on economic mobility, we have to make sure that we're retaining and creating jobs. The single best way that we can make sure that we're really creating economic opportunity for New Yorkers, and particularly for the next generation, for younger New Yorkers who, are going to make this great city their home, we have to keep businesses here. We have to attract new businesses. I'm very concerned about some of the job numbers. I'm concerned that there are more financial sector jobs in the state of Texas than New York. That was never the case. We always outpaced, usually 3-1, not that long ago. And so that's a challenge. That is something that we, as policymakers, as elected officials, absolutely need to lean into, because we cannot afford to have those businesses continue to leave and those jobs leave our city. Over 5,000 small businesses closed last year. That's unacceptable. So if you really want to, and I'm a former small business owner, so what are we doing about it? Actually, tomorrow we're passing this Cut the Red Tape Act, which is sponsored by my colleague, Councilmember Zhuang, which basically requires the city to reduce the time it takes to actually open a new business. Because we have all these businesses, some of whom are waiting years to open because they cannot get the necessary licenses and permits. That is ridiculous. And so we are going to be changing that through that legislation. I'm also introducing my own bill on Thursday that directs a commission to be appointed every 4 years that cuts down on regulations, cuts down on red tape, cuts down on fines. So when I served as commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs back in 2014, we did a whole set of reforms to reduce fines on small businesses and to give small businesses 30 days to cure the violation, as long as it wasn't a major safety violation, before they would ever get assessed a fine. So those, to me, on economic mobility, we want to encourage entrepreneurship in our city. We want to encourage small businesses to grow and thrive here. So that is some of the work that we're going to be focused on in the months ahead.
That's great. Well, I can't agree more that it's difficult to have economic mobility without good jobs. So we need to make sure that's happening. And obviously the role of small businesses, you weren't here to hear it, but one of the 5 ideas that we published in our kind of economic mobility report today is about harnessing CUNY students, or putting CUNY students to work to help small businesses get up to speed when it comes to AI and other technologies. A lot of these younger CUNY students could really benefit from the work experience working with small businesses. But small businesses often have that kind of tech savviness gap. And so that's just one of our many ideas. But anyway, this has been an amazing conversation. We really appreciate you being here. And could everybody join me in giving a warm round of applause?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jonathan.
Well, thanks for all the great work you're doing, and we so appreciate having Speaker Menin, and thank you all for being here today. I want to also thank Brandy McHale, Zebby, the entire team at Citi and Citi Foundation for their partnership and their support today. Thank you all for all you're doing in communities across the city, and a big thanks to the Center for an Urban Future staff. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.